Welcome to Delta Wave History, your sanctuary for functional, historical boredom. Our focus will remain on the historical, methodical, numerical, and the procedural. This allows your mind to unwind and drift into historical details. Please adjust your volume for a consistent, even tone. We aim for a predictable vocal rhythm, devoid of sudden shifts in pitch or intensity, designed to facilitate a state of tranquil observation and sleep, if you wish. Tonight, we will examine a detailed catalogue of historical stitch types used exclusively in the hemming of plain linen. Before the advent of the sewing machine, every garment, sheet, and napkin required the rhythmic, repetitive motion of a needle and thread. Allow your mind to settle into the gentle, predictable rhythm of a seamstress at work. To understand the stitches, we must first consider the tools that made them possible. A simple needle, perhaps forged of steel or carved from bone, was threaded with spun flax. This thread was often dragged through a small lump of beeswax to prevent tangling during the long hours of work. The wax coated the fibers, making a soft, continuous, sliding sound as it pulled through the woven linen fabric. The most fundamental of all techniques is the running stitch, used for basic seams and gathering. The needle passes over and under the fabric in a continuous, even line, capturing a precise number of woven threads with each pass. The seamstress would count the threads, 2 up, 2 down, over and over until the length of the linen was secured. This unbroken repetition formed the foundation of domestic textile work for centuries. When 2 selvage edges needed to be joined flat, the whip stitch was employed. The seamstress would hold the 2 edges perfectly aligned, passing the needle over the top and through both layers. The thread created a neat, spiraling pattern that wrapped securely around the outside of the fabric. It is a stitch that requires little thought, only a steady hand and a patient, repetitive motion. For areas requiring more durability, the flat-felled seam provided an incredibly secure and tidy finish. One edge of the linen was trimmed slightly shorter than the other, allowing the longer edge to fold completely over it. This folded edge was then pressed flat against the fabric and sewn down with a tiny, meticulous hemming stitch. The result was a smooth, enclosed edge that would never fray in the harsh lye soaps of the wash. The back stitch was utilized when absolute strength was required, mimicking the durability of a machine stitch long before machines existed. The needle moves forward beneath the fabric, then reaches backward to enter the exact hole left by the previous stitch. This 2 steps forward, 1 step back progression locks the linen fibers tightly together. The process is remarkably slow, demanding a deliberate, unwavering focus as the seam slowly inches across the cloth. To create a hem that was completely invisible from the outside of the garment, the slip stitch was carefully executed. The needle is passed through the inner fold of the hem, traveling inside the crease, before catching a single, microscopic thread of the main fabric. By picking up only 1 warp or weft thread at a time, the stitch disappears entirely into the weave. It is a quiet, hidden technique, leaving no trace of the labor involved. Occasionally, the raw edge of a heavier linen required finishing without folding, which called for the blanket stitch. The thread is pulled through the fabric, and before the stitch is pulled tight, the needle passes through the remaining loop. This creates a continuous ridge of thread that rests exactly on the very edge of the linen. The spacing must be perfectly uniform, creating a visual rhythm of evenly spaced posts along the border. For linens woven with a looser tension, The herringbone stitch offered a flexible but secure hem. The needle catches a few threads of the hem, then crosses diagonally to catch a few threads of the garment, working backward from left to right. This overlapping figure-eight motion prevents the woven edges from raveling, while allowing the fabric to stretch slightly. The crisscross pattern marches endlessly across the width of the cloth, securing the boundary of the fabric. In finer linens meant for display, drawn threadwork or simple hemstitching was used to secure the fold. Several horizontal weft threads were painstakingly pulled out of the fabric entirely, leaving a gap of exposed vertical warp threads. The seamstress would then use her needle to bundle these vertical threads together in groups of 3 or 4, tying them tight. This repetitive knotting created a delicate, ladder-like border that bordered on decorative boredom. The finest undergarments required the rolled hem, a technique of astonishing miniature precision. The very edge of the lightweight linen was rolled tightly between the thumb and forefinger into a tiny, firm cylinder. The needle then whipped around this microscopic roll, securing it with stitches so small they are difficult to see with the naked eye. It is an exercise in extreme, monotonous detail, repeated for yards upon yards of fabric. Each of these stitches served a distinct, practical purpose in the construction of everyday linen goods. There are no surprises in the geometry of the needle, only the reliable, soothing repetition of thread passing through cloth. As the catalogue of hems concludes, the fabric is neatly folded and the sewing box is quietly latched shut. The work is finished, and it is time to rest. Discover more history by watching the next video. We're eager to share more with you. You can't go wrong. All our videos are deeply detailed, dull while fascinating, and distinctly sleep-inducing.